Welcome to Don't Quote Me on That. One day we will have an intro, but today is not that day. Hi, I'm Eleanor.
And I'm Kalina.
And welcome back to Don't Quote Me on That, where we do whatever we want.
Hey, we're actually living up to the slogan today. We're kind of talking about a movie, because we will not stay on topic.
We will not. Today we're talking about you people, and you're going to notice two things about this episode that I don't think have ever happened before.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely haven't happened at the same time. One, I'm sick. That's why my voice sounds like this. I don't normally sound like this, but I'm going to blame Taylor Swift. And I'm only going to blame Taylor Swift as a plug for our episode a while ago where I talked about going to the Taylor Swift concert.
The other interesting thing you'll notice is that Eleanor and I don't know if they'll notice, because it'll sound the same on their end, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we'll probably interrupt each other less because we'll have more of a feel of when the other person is talking.
Yeah, there's no internet lag, because Eleanor and I are physically in the same room for the first time ever since we didn't podcast, at least. We have been in the same room together before.
Yeah, we just
haven't recorded.
Never recorded. We meant to a bunch.
But then we kind of got distracted having drinky drinks and making TikToks.
Yeah.
And those were very important, you know?
We've made some baller TikToks. And by baller, I mean, it's not just Kalina.
Trying to edit Eleanor into the TikTok. Yeah. But yeah, we're together, so this will be very fun. We need you all to, this is all the Eleanor and Kalina content in the same room you're getting for a while, so
yeah,
treasure it. But yeah, we're talking about You People on Netflix. We have a lot of thoughts about You People on Netflix, and I think we'll just hop right into it and do our best to stay on topic.
So, You People is is a Netflix original. Which, do you think that's this generation's version of the DCOM or the DCOM? Because I really hope it's not.
I don't think so, because I think, one, they always joke about how, you have Disney kids and Nick kids and Cartoon Network kids. So I think DCOMs are, for a specific...
It's true.
...set. And I think they were, I don't know, I feel like Netflix doesn't advertise for as long. You know, a DCOM, they'd be, hyping it up forever.
That's true.
Where Netflix, I saw the trailer for this movie, and I think, a month later it was out.
Yeah, I saw this on TikTok, and then... I saw a thing, and then when did it come out?
January 27th, according to this poster here.
January 27th, okay.
Oh yeah, it was released in select theaters. I also have a lot of thoughts about you're doing a direct to streaming, but you release it in some theaters, because I don't it doesn't make sense.
It's really
straight
doesn't.
up just for promo, and I don't really think it adds enough to the experience or the value or the ratings of the movie to do it.
Not really.
Especially if you're gonna release a week before in select theaters, or release it at the same time or something.
What if you really like it, but you think your grandpa would like it, but he refuses to get Netflix? You can't say, "Oh well, it was in the theater for 2 days."
Yeah,
it sucks. Anyway, before we start, I just want to make the disclaimer that neither of us are Jewish.
Neither of us are Jewish. No.
And we can say I am not black. I don't know if Kalina is black. I've never seen her before.
I'm black enough, I think, to have this conversation, is what I will say.
So if we say we're gonna try not to say stupid stuff about Jewish people, I feel like we're not going to.
I don't think so. But if we do,
on
the off chance, apology from now.
Yeah, we're gonna claim
our bad
ignorance, which is not the right thing to do, but that's what we're doing. Anyway,
if it's preemptive, I think we're at least getting ahead of the curve there.
That's true.
Versus after the fact, we're we didn't know. We know statistically something stupid might happen.
Yeah.
Just preparing you.
And honestly, it probably won't be about what we say about Jewish people, just because we're kind of stupid.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so this is an American, it's described as a romantic comedy, and I have a lot of thoughts about what the genre of this film was, in that there was too many things happening and they should have just stuck to one. Which is my main takeaway, I think.
It's definitely like I think it's more romantic comedy than it is anything else, but I don't think it's a romantic comedy, if that makes sense.
No, and I don't think it had enough, it's a romantic comedy in the sense that, like, it had both elements, but I think it would have been better off just leaning into one or the other.
Yeah.
We talked about Don't Look Up, and if you all remember Don't Look Up, that was a stupid movie, right?
Yes.
That was, like, trying to make this statement that I agree was important and needed to be made, but did it in, like, such a... Like, tried to make levity of the situation at times when that was, like, the wrong time to be making jokes. And then, like, other times thought it was making a much deeper statement than it was. When, like, the statement itself was deep enough, but it was, like, taking itself too seriously. And this did all of those things. Not as badly. I liked this more than Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
But, like, I was so confused.
Confused for its tone.
Yeah.
It was written by So kind of a duo did most of the... it was directed by Kenya Barris. It was written by Kenya Barris and Jonah Hill. And then it was produced by Jonah Hill, Kenya Barris, and then somebody else named Kevin.
Am I sure?
This is going to shock you, is a producer.
And it was starring Jonah Hill. So he was just, hand in the pot on every dish, so to speak.
It looks like one of the things Kevin Misher has done. I don't know if this is what he's most known for, but he's done 5 of them. The Scorpion King movies with The Rock.
Oh, they made movies. I thought that was just like that one off in The Mummy.
Nope, they made 5 of them. And they are described... Well, this one is described as a thrilling direct-to-video sword and sorcery action adventure film. And all those adjectives to describe one word honestly fits in line with this other piece of Kevin's work.
Except I would be interested in a sword and sorcery action film.
I feel like if it's an action film, you can get away with doing a lot in one thing, because there's a lot more. I just feel like for the most part, sticking to one genre is not really necessary. Like, unless it's a documentary, there's a lot of fluidity between genres, and you don't have to be nailed down to one genre. Like, even if you say, you're a horror movie, as long as there's some suspense or scaries in there, sure, you can get away with it. But, like, you do have to, even if you're using multiple, like, things from different genres, you need to know what the point of the film is. You need to know if the love story is what's going to take precedence. You need to know if the commentary is what's going to take precedence. You need to know if the comedy is what's going to... Like, you gotta...
Like, I think it's impossible to have just a one genre film anymore. Like, even when you go on Netflix and you look at, like, thrillers or horror movies, it's, like, a psychological thriller, like, ghost horror. Like, they get, you get very specific. So, I think it's very hard, like, because they're trying to make commentary. I think it's very hard to play a commentary movie. I think that's one of the few things that has to, like, be straight up.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, obviously they're going to make jokes, but, like, it would not necessarily qualify as a comedy. Like, that'd probably be like a dark comedy, you know what I mean, if you're making commentary and making jokes. So, like, I do agree with the rom-com in the sense that, like, it had those elements most. But, like, when it was trying to make a point, like, a rom-com can make a point and still be a rom-com, whereas this felt like it was trying to make a commentary, but, like, didn't want it to get too heavy.
Yes,
so threw like, rom-com on top of there.
Love, but like
I think if they weren't trying to make it funny, it would have been funnier.
Yeah. When Clea and I were watching this movie, we thought about 303, who is one of the best bands around, and part of the reason they're the best is that they as art, they take it seriously. Like, the production value. I think they have a really good handle on like what their sound is, what their fans want, what they want to make. So like they take it seriously as an art form, but like as kind of an overarching experience.
Yeah, they're not
They
taking
don't.
themselves like they're not like we are the next Adele and we need to, we need to be respected. Like yeah, obviously they take time and write their lyrics, but they can also appreciate the fact that what their audience likes and what they're good at is fun.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be life changing. So I think yeah, you can take the art seriously and not yourself seriously, but this is doing both anyway, which we've said in a variety of ways this entire time. Basically, the plot of this movie is we've got Ezra, who's played by Jonah Hill, and he, according to the Wikipedia page, falls into an unlikely relationship with Amira, who is played by Lauren London. And before I saw this movie, when it first came out, I saw like a lot of people, it was like half and half. Half of the people were like, oh, they have great chemistry, and half the people were like, they have no chemistry, I have no idea what you're talking about. They have no chemistry, I have no idea what they're talking about.
They really, like, they definitely look like they're having fun next to each other, but they don't look like they're having fun with each other.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was actively working against them, but I was watching and I was like, I don't really get the vibe here. Like he'd tell a joke and she'd laugh, but I never really felt like she was like laughing with him. She was just kind of like, haha, you told a joke, this is the point where I laugh at this scenario. Like,
you know how when you were in 3rd grade you did popcorn reading?
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, for if you don't know, you're sitting in a classroom and somebody reads a paragraph and then they just call on somebody else to read the paragraph. Like, you're all definitely still reading the same story, and the words are definitely coming out in the order that they were written. But it's not a cohesive storytelling experience by any means.
And then I feel like there was, like, little tidbits we could have been getting into more that weren't. But anyway, so they fall in love. Then 6 months later, he's like, I'm gonna marry her, right? And he has not met her parents yet, so he takes it upon himself. Well, I think she's met his parents at this point, right? He takes her over.
Yeah.
He takes her over to his house to meet his parents, and his parents are like,
For context, Jonah Hill is white and Jewish, and Amira, Lauren London, I don't remember Jonah Hill's character, Ezra. Ezra is white and Jewish, and Amira is black and Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the comedy is supposed to come from, I guess.
And so she's met his parents, and I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to use the word racist because it's not like they're actively insidious, right? But they make obviously a lot of like comments that they don't know any better, his parents. And he's got a younger sister, and she's equally embarrassed by her parents as Ezra is. Sorry. But anyway, so she meets Amira meets his parents, but he hasn't met her parents, and he decides he wants to marry her. So he's like, I'm gonna call up her parents and ask if I can marry her, which is my first problem with this movie, because if you haven't met them yet, I don't think the first time you should meet them and be like, hello, I'm the man your daughter's been dating for 6 months.
Yeah.
Can I marry your daughter? We don't know each other.
The only time, like, honestly, the only time you should be meeting your girlfriend's parents or your boyfriend's parents without your boyfriend there is, like, meeting them for the first time, not just, like, ever. It's, like, if your boyfriend's in the hospital and you have to call them and say, oh my God, come to the hospital. But other than that, you should let them facilitate it, because they know their family a little bit better. Also, I think it's after they start dating, but before they're like serious, Amira and her dad and her brother are out, and Amira tells her dad that she's dating somebody new, and then the dad immediately asks if he's Muslim, and she says yes, because it becomes very clear, and by becomes very clear, I mean this is explicitly stated. Don't worry, the audience is given very little room to have to interpret or think about things, that the dad will really only be happy. Well, it seems like the whole family, but like really just the dad, which I have a little feelings about, we'll get into, the dad will really only be happy if his especially his daughter ends up with a good Muslim boy, which I feel like is a fair, maybe not expectation, but like desire for your child, because she's Muslim and faith is important. Having that match there.
Well,
I would
you
understand.
say faith is important, right? But what becomes clear, because he wants to marry her, and then they go through all the like shebang of like preparing, getting a wedding together, obviously, and their parents are on opposite sides. Like her parents want her to have a imam, his parents are like, oh, we already asked the rabbi, like things like that. But like it doesn't seem like Ezra and Amira ever discussed like.
Oh no, they've never talked. They've never had a conversation.
Like we see them joking, but like I don't know how you decide you're ready to marry her, and you're shocked that she wants to have an imam officiate your wedding. You're like,
Yeah.
Ezra's like, I didn't know you were so Muslim all of a sudden, and like I just feel like this is a conversation you should have had before you proposed. Also, Amira's father is played by Eddie Murphy, and I do think part of the problem, which is not really a fault of the movie or anyone, is that when Eddie Murphy's in a movie, you expect it to be like always funny, you know what I mean? But like, because Eddie Murphy's a funny guy, even when he's playing like a serious role, but I think he brings comedy to the situation at the right time. Whereas here, I was like waiting for like it to be as funny as Eddie Murphy usually is, and it wasn't. Anyway, he's his name is Akbar, which he changed his name from. What did he change his name from? Woody to Akbar, and he's like very serious about that. And then, so yeah, we see them like preparing for this wedding, and at one point, also Ezra. This part's embarrassing. Ezra does a podcast
about the culture.
With a black lady who's his best friend. I think her name is Mo. Yes. And if that sounds familiar, no, it doesn't. I think they had more chemistry than him and Amira. And not that they had romantic chemistry, but they had more chemistry than him and Amira.
They definitely like had spoken to each other before, and there was a level of love you could tell.
Like there was one scene
that they liked each other
before he meets Amira, where he's like, I just want to be in a relationship so bad, and Mo's like, I have never met a man who wanted to be in a relationship so bad besides Drake. And like that sounds like a thing someone who cares about you and like knows you well would say to you. Like she's ragging on him, but like with love. But yeah, so then when they're planning the wedding, they go to dinner. So the whole family has dinner at their house. Also, they just like have a house.
Yeah,
the timeline here confusing.
First of all, it's a mess. When Jonah Hill meets Ezra meets Amira's parents for the first time.
They don't like him.
Without Amira, and he's first of all takes them to a chicken and waffle place, which I would like to know how the character came to that decision, because it's not a it's not a cool with black people move, I think. And I'm very curious to know if the character thought that it was, or he just really likes chicken and waffles and didn't think about the implications.
Or maybe it was just like a middle ground point. He was like, oh, this is halfway between where we live.
Yeah. Like, we kind of needed to know, like, little things like that, which kind of would help fill in more of the characters.
Because if his mom did it, I would have been like, this is her thinking this is what black people like. Because that's his mom's whole thing, is she like...
has never met a black person before, and is trying so hard that everything gets ruined.
I will say the one running joke that had to deal with like assumptions about the other people that I enjoyed was Ezra's father met Amira and she had braids the first time he met her, and so he said Exhibit had braids, and then for the rest of the movie, anytime you hear him talking, which isn't often, he's talking about Exhibit, and I did appreciate the commitment to the bit there. But yes, sorry, you're finishing. They went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Yes, they went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, which, not a great start.
Especially even if he wasn't asking to propose, for the first meeting, you want to meet your girlfriend's parents at like a chicken and waffle. Yeah, it's not like take him to Olive Garden at least.
Yeah, like
Cheesecake Factory.
Let's get white people fancy. Let's go to Red Lobster.
Yeah.
But the parents are not happy. And do you remember how I said that Amira told her dad, she was dating a Muslim.
Yes.
I don't know if Amira, how
If her dad still
America
thinks.
came up. Like, I feel like they knew who Ezra was.
Yeah, it's not clear if they still think he's this Muslim dude, because it's been like 6 months, so we're not clear if she was ever like, oh, that didn't work out, and move on. Timeline here, again, a lot of details get kind of...
Yeah, like we
Shuffled.
don't ever get told how her parents initially react that she's dating a white person. We're just supposed to assume that they hate it, which I mean would make sense with the information that we've been given, but like it's just weird, and the lunch does not go well, and then Jonah Hill comes home, and is upset, and Amira's like, why would you talk to my parents without telling me? Which is a fair thing to be upset about. And I feel like they need to talk about, because they never talk to each other.
But instead, he pulls out the ring, and all of a sudden, all is forgotten. She's like, oh my god, no, you can still propose, it's fine. I would still like to revisit the parent thing, personally.
Yeah. Like, he says, and I had this whole thing planned, I was going to propose, and then the music swells like it's a romantic moment.
Yeah, and she's like, you still can. Oh, hold on a second. No, I'd like to back to... Because, like, again, she knows her parents. And, like, she could be talking about her parents, but if she hasn't brought you to meet them yet, maybe she, like, doesn't talk to her parents. Maybe she doesn't have a good relationship with them, and she's just trying, like, waiting for the right time. You don't know any of these things. So, like, don't go behind her back and, like...
No. And also, if my boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, significant other did that, and then they pulled out a ring, my first thought would not be, oh my god, everything's okay now.
I'd be like, I'm glad you'd like to get married, but clearly you don't respect me. And we need to discuss that.
What the F word? Maybe we can talk about marriage after we talk about what the hell you were doing with my parents.
Well, speaking of F words, after they propose and they have this whole shebang, they have everyone over for dinner.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. What's the worst restaurant your boyfriend, partner, girlfriend, significant other, whatever, could take your parents to? Like, what would be your family's version of a chicken and waffles? Because I think mine would be like a bad Irish pub.
A Chick-fil-A.
No, I think like racially misguided, like culturally misguided.
I don't eat meat, so Chick-fil-A would be terrible.
Chick-fil-A, yeah.
Culturally misguided? Ooh. I'm thinking like honestly, probably a chicken and waffle place.
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't consider myself like African American in the sense that like my like descended from slaves, African American, been in America for a lot of times. So I think assuming not that chicken and waffles are part of that culture, but people would assume and associate that with black people of that descent. So any assumption around that.
Yeah, okay.
Or I think I'm pretty vocal about where my parents are from. So if you took us to like a Haitian place or like any of the places that are not where my parents are from.
Okay.
But yeah, no, probably also a chicken and waffle place, to be honest.
Honestly,
also, we don't eat chicken. So.
I think Chick-fil-A would be a bad guess for anybody.
Yeah.
Or any fast food restaurant.
Chick-fil-A, I don't want to give them money, and I don't anymore. But they do a good frozen lemonade, and they do...
they do have good waffle fries.
Oreo, yeah.
But other places also have waffle fries. Unfortunately, I think for my family, Chick-fil-A would be a great option. It'd probably work in your favor. But like...
What's a good place? Cheesecake Factory, Olive Garden. If you took me to Olive Garden, I'd marry you. Cheesecake Factory for my family, probably.
Yeah, Cheesecake Factory for my family.
Nice Indian place.
Oh, a nice Indian place.
Anyway, comment below what's a bad place for your family to go while we talk about the other F word, which is Farrakhan. Because shockingly, the kids, the Ezra's parents don't love that, and Amira's parents do. Sorry, my phone case is weird. For those of you who don't know, Farrakhan is according to Wikipedia, okay, this is not my words, this is the words of Wikipedia, all right? He's an American black supremacist and anti-white cult leader who heads the Nation of Islam. Prior to joining the Nation of Islam, he was a calypso singer who used the stage name Calypso Jean. So, shockingly, the white Jewish family doesn't love that the black Muslim family loves that guy. And then this is an example though. The reason I want to bring this up is this is an example of like bringing levity to a situation where it like was not the right time, and I think it just made things worse and insensitive, because Amira's father has on a kufi, which is like a religious headpiece, for lack of a better word. And he said, it was given to me by the Honorable Farrakhan. And then later, a couple of moments later, Ezra's mom, who again was not happy about this, accidentally sets it on fire. But of course, to Amira's father, that doesn't really seem like an accident, because they already clashed over these views.
Yeah.
And then the thing is like destroyed beyond belief.
Also, I just feel like if any other culture would understand the important significance of a little religious hat.
I don't remember if it's in this scene, but there is a scene where they talk about how they would, because they were arguing about who was oppressed most recently, I think it was here.
They were.
And I think at one point Ezra's dad says, well, the Holocaust was like slavery for Jewish people, which goes over as well as you imagine.
No, Ezra's dad says something along the lines of how both black people and Jewish people had like a big kind of traumatic kind of event, historical time period that impacted every single person, honestly even kind of connected to that group in the years down the line. And then her dad, Akbar, asked if he's comparing Jewish people and black people, which, to be fair, he kind of was.
Yes.
But I think kind of like,
I don't think he was meaning to, but that's what that did.
Like it's a conversation that requires a lot of nuance. Thank you.
Delicacy.
And when, first of all, not really the time or place for a nuanced conversation about
because for all intents and purposes, this is their engagement dinner.
Yeah. And I feel like the big problem is nobody in this movie, the whole goddamn movie, understands nuance and has any respect for nuance. So like, he stated the argument poorly. I could see kind of where he was coming from. Not the time, not the place, not the best words, not the best reaction. Like a lot of,
I think that's why he stuck to talking about Exhibit after that.
Yeah.
He was like, listen,
it's
this
safer.
one, no one got mad at him about the Exhibit thing. No. Everyone was like, that's kind of dumb, but like no one got mad at him about it. But yeah, so then yeah, there's the Ukraine Holocaust, the slavery argument, and then anyway, that goes terribly, obviously. Dinner goes terribly. And so then they're like, maybe we need to like spend time with them separately. So basically, Ezra arranges to spend time with Amira's dad, and Amira arranges to spend time with Ezra's mom. And so,
which, like, what they should have done is Ezra and Amira should have spent time with like both parents, together separately.
Again, had he met them before he went to propose, I would understand if he's like, okay, I'm feeling we've established a relationship. I'm comfortable enough to spend time with you one-on-one. This is like the third or fourth time he's met this dude and he's spending time with him one-on-one, and the guy very clearly doesn't like him, and Ezra's trying very hard to make him like him. That's not fair to him. It doesn't make sense.
He needs a buffer. Both people need a buffer because the parents do not really know when to shut up. Also, one thing I do not like about this movie, and for some background, Kenya Barris, who co-writer, creator, director, he has
he has tried to kill Eleanor.
He has a show, or had a show on ABC called Blackish, and I watched it. I think I watched all of it. I watched at least 3/4 of it. I studied it a little bit during my master's course. One thing that I think is kind of an issue that I have seen, or at least a phenomenon that I have seen come up in both this piece of work and this other piece of work, is that he in works in Blackish and in this show, there is somehow a powerful female black lead like Amira, but at the same time there are other black female characters who are given little to no agency. And I am very, very interested, confused also about how you can have a story that is kind of half led by a black woman, and in the same exact hour and 20-minute long movie have, because Amira's mom kind of does nothing.
She has like a couple lines, a couple like opinions she shares in the dinner, but then we don't really hear it from her.
And it's just
till the end.
It's weird.
It's kind of like when you do like an action movie or a superhero movie with a female lead, but there's somehow no other women in the movie. Like, I don't know, any action movie with a female, to be honest with you. There's like no other women. Like, this woman is special and she's great and she's strong. She can do all these things. And all the other women just don't exist or are like side characters, don't have any development.
And it's made a little bit weirder in this specifically because there are other female characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the podcast host, Ezra's best friend, that we see maybe 5 times throughout the entire film, is a more fleshed out character than the mother of the main character, who is central to the main conflict of the plot. And it's kind of similar with, on the other side, with how the with Ezra's parents, the mom is kind of the one who is driving everything, and the dad is just kind of there talking about exhibit. Amira's mom doesn't even get an exhibit. She just...
I think one time she says, "Go get my papers out my purse," and then that's the end of her. And then later on she comes back and like comforts Amira, but like I think that's the only time we see her.
And it's weird, and I don't appreciate it, and I feel like we could try.
Also, on a superficial note, the mother's played by Nia Long, and I just think we deserve to look at her longer.
So much more.
But yeah, so they go to spend time together, and my main issue, not main issue, but I was, before we recorded this, I was looking up complaints, right? And the main complaints, a lot of people said this movie is anti-Semitic, especially considering Jonah Hill like co-wrote it, and they were talking a lot about like how, like, it seemed like Jonah Hill's character Ezra wasn't allowed to be, like, his complaints about Akbar were less serious or less important than Amira's complaints about Ezra's mother and a whole bunch of other stuff. But like I found that Akbar's problem wasn't that Ezra was Jewish. Obviously they didn't get along because of their views as like families, but Akbar's problem with Ezra when he met him was like he wasn't expecting his daughter to date a non-Muslim and a white guy. And like, so his issue was those things. It wasn't like specifically because they were Jewish, it was specifically because they weren't Muslim. At least, again, specifically with Ezra. But anyway, he takes him out, and so like they go to a barber shop, and he's got Ezra wearing red when they're like in a Crips barber shop. So like, and then he takes him to play like pickup basketball, expecting him to be made a fool of, but Ezra does fine because Ezra's also thing is like these are the people he hangs out with, not just black people, but like this is the sort of culture he's in, and stereotypically, statistically, especially for where they live, there's more black people. So like Ezra's doing well at pickup basketball, and it's ruining Akbar's day, but Akbar's like going out of his way to trip Ezra up, and Ezra for the most part is like game about it and putting up with it because he loves his daughter, he loves Amira. So he's just being himself and trying to make Akbar like him. On the other side, Amira brings Shelly out with her friends for a spa day, but Shelly just like, again, it's like, it's awful, and it's about as bad as what Akbar did, but also she's like not actively trying to ruin Amira's day.
No,
she's just so clueless,
white and
oblivious,
which is also bad.
Yes, it says here, Shelly takes Amira out for a spa day, but she continually shows her cluelessness, makes Amira uncomfortable, and is oblivious to her own microaggressions. Like she sits there, it's like and it's not things that are like bad, but like when you have a group when you have like it's a group of black women obviously, and Shelly walks up and the first thing she goes, "Oh my god, you all are so beautiful," which is like a weird thing to complain about, but because of who she is and like where it's coming from, it's almost feels like she's compensating off the bat. She's like, "You guys are so beautiful and gorgeous in your hair," and like she wouldn't walk up to a white woman and do that. She might be like, "You're pretty," but like. Yep. She wouldn't go on for 5 minutes about how gorgeous you are and wonderful and stunning you women are. You know, like she's never seen a black person before, which like honestly is possible.
I'm not convinced she's ever seen a black person before. And I feel like maybe we're going to get into this. Like maybe the first time, one of my problems is we are not told when, so, okay. Amira is brought over, this is before, but Amira is brought over to Ezra's parents' house to meet. We are not told if this is the moment where his parents find out that she is black.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that, for the most part, you need to give your parents a heads up that you know a black person.
Yeah.
But it seems like if Ezra kind of knows how his mom is, and it seems like he does, maybe a couple days of warning might be nice, just so that she doesn't embarrass herself. And like, yes, it's on her to not embarrass herself. But I mean, I know my mother. I don't think she'd do this, but like I know there are definitely some things, just generally some just things that exist in the world where if she's going to be face to face with them, just to save me a headache, I need to give her a heads up. Like, you know, I'm just going to make something up because I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Oh, here we go. I took her to the Taylor Swift concert. I'm a freak, okay? I had, before, like a week leading up to it, I was like, Mother, here's exactly where our seats are. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what we're going to do on our seats. And this was mostly me being a control freak, but also, just to make sure everybody was more comfortable, I needed to make sure that she knew what I wanted out of the evening, and she needed to know what I wanted out of the evening. And also, I needed to remind her 6 times that when we got to get up to get drinks, even if she didn't want one, she was going to order me a rum and coke so I could drink it. Like, you know your parents. You know how to best set everybody up for success.
Like, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Because there's a scene in the beginning.
Sorry. It's like if you have a 3-year-old and you're taking to meet somebody with one leg for the first time, you're going to give them some warning. Not that being black is the same as only having one leg, but like to make sure your 3-year-old doesn't say stupid shit to that person and ask them if they're a pirate, you need to give some warning. I would say not a 3-year-old because, to make your example more relatable, like a 6 or 7-year-old, because like as an adult and a human person, she should know better. Yes.
So like a child who's old enough to know better, but maybe doesn't quite, also is a child. So like, you prepare them. You're managing expectations essentially, and like just making sure everyone's on the same page, because like, yeah, you know your parents, but like also you can't know anyone perfectly. Just so you're like, listen, just to be safe, I'm sure this is fine. Yada, yada, yada. Just covering all the bases here. It really, truly feels like this is the first time she realized that black people existed. Yeah. Which is insane for somebody who lives in LA. Yeah. And, like, I saw some complaints that were, like, and they're saying that all Jewish people are rich and white and privileged. And I was like, to be fair, his family was rich and white and privileged, which was the crux of the issue. But, like, I don't think that was the argument that was being made. But also, to be fair, yeah, there weren't a lot of white Jewish people that we encountered, if any. But, I mean, to be fair, we mostly just encountered the 6. Yeah. The 2 people and their parents. That too. Like, I was like, I don't really understand this argument because we spend so much time on these 2 people and also know nothing about them. But anyway, Ezra goes to, so after they have their, like, equally disastrous days with the parents, Ezra's going to his bachelor party. And guess who shows up on the plane? Akbar and his son, so Amira's brother. And Akbar, this is why I had more of an issue with Akbar personally, because he was actively trying, like, when his son was like, why are we coming to the bachelor, like, dad, like, you don't, this is not normal. He's like, we're just here to make sure he has a terrible time. Like, his only goal in life was to make sure the man who's marrying his daughter and who makes his daughter happy just had a terrible time on his bachelor party. Like, a bachelor party is not a time for you to just be stupid.
No. And it goes back, I think, a little bit, not 100%, but like how the both parents are kind of trying to argue that both Black people and Jewish people have had, a hard time historically, which is a very lightweight way to put it. I really hope people can see where I'm going here, but like both parents of these kids are messing up the relationship, the kids' relationships in some ways. And like they're both making the relationship worse in the same way that both groups had hard times. But like they're going about it in completely different ways that are treated very, very similarly, and they're not. They are the both parents are coming at this for like completely different reasons. Yes, it's a similar outcome in that stressing everybody out, but like they're coming at it for different reasons, and they're treated as the same, which they shouldn't be. Because
Akbar is trying to make Ezra run for the hills on the basis of he is not what he expected for his daughter.
He's being intentionally malicious.
And whatever homegirl's name is, Shelly, Ezra's mother, is trying to welcome Amira in, but is so just whatever she's doing is like she's so overbearing about it, for lack of a better word, that it is in turn sending Amira running for the hills.
Yes.
Like she's so nice. It's almost like I don't know, in horror movies when like you meet someone and you're like they're just too nice and you're like this is suspicious. Like that's what Shelly is doing. Whereas Akbar is like trying to make, and Ezra is like trying to stay the course, but he's making it really hard. Like when they go to the bachelor party, all his friends are doing cocaine, and Ezra's like, I don't know a coke guy. What coke guy? And his friends are like, yeah, no, you're coke guy that we got coke from him last time. Because Akbar's sitting there and he obviously doesn't want to do cocaine in front of his future father-in-law. And Akbar uses that as his justification for why Ezra's a terrible person, because his friends make like questionable jokes and they do drugs and they're just, hedonistic. But like also they're on a bachelor party trip. That's what you do.
And like it's not like Akbar saw Ezra making out with a stripper or being like mean to women or like something that, I mean, sure, doing drugs is probably not great, but like not doing anything that would indicate kind of
that's like impacting his relationship
hurt
with Amira.
Yeah. And like everybody just needs to calm down. And also it seems like Ezra and Amira, they both have issues with what their parents are doing, understandably. But we don't really get a sense of why family is so important to each of them. Well, first of all, we don't get a sense that family is important to Ezra at all. We get the sense that it's important to Amira. And, like, is that why it's so important that Ezra's parents get along with Amira? Because Amira thinks family is important and she thinks they should be a unit?
Again, this is a conversation they clearly did not have, along with the religion thing.
If Amira thinks family is important and she wants her parents to get along with Ezra, why do his parents have to be as involved? Because it doesn't seem like, we are not shown in the movie that Ezra and his parents are close.
Because when we first meet them, they're like, I think he goes to the synagogue for Passover?
I think so.
For something,
yeah.
And he's like crawling out of his skin to leave as soon as possible.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Mom, I showed up. This is a great time. I have to go. And he bounces as soon as humanly possible. And then I understand if they know how their parents are. Like, I don't think they imagine it would be this extreme, but they know how their parents are. So in that 6 months, they're like living in this nice little bubble. But like, once the bubbles burst, you kind of got to face reality. You can't just keep trying to go back into the bubble. And then, so at the same time we're getting the bachelor party, we get the bachelorette party, where Amira invites Shelly, which, like, again, I don't think you should.
Why are you inviting?
She didn't invite herself for long.
First of all, she invited her. I wouldn't invite my mom to my bachelorette party unless my bachelorette party was like.
I'd invite my mom to my bachelorette party. She wouldn't come to anything, I think, racy. So
it would be. It's just like a.
I'd be like, here, come for the dinner, day. We'll go to the strip club. We'll see you in the morning.
Yeah.
Brunch.
Like, I don't necessarily think, especially given how meeting his parents had gone, you want your future mother-in-law there.
I get invited his
No
sister,
offense
like
to Shelley,
even if they're not
she can
close.
bring the vibe down.
Yeah, I get invited because she invited his sister too, so I get that. Like, especially even if they're not close, like she's a little younger, she has common sense. She's like, whenever Ezra's not around, she's the one apologizing for her mom, which like you shouldn't have to do. But like Shelley, there's one scene they're playing Hangman, and they're like, what I don't remember how many letters, but like what's a 5 or 6 letter word for a group of
7.
A 7 letter word for a group of women who can move well, or people who can move well, or something like that.
Something.
And Shelley stands up with her whole chest and goes, "I got it. Is it an N word?" And everyone else besides her daughter, but including her daughter, everyone else is not white and Jewish and looks at her. And she goes, "No, because I was gonna say, I don't even remember what word she came up with.
Me either, but like,
it wasn't great. It was very. Oh, she said Navajos.
Yeah.
She goes, I was going to say Navajos, which is also bad. And anyway, the answer was dancers. And then her ring gets hooked on one of the girls' like hair and pulls her wig off. And she's like, I didn't even realize it was a wig. But like, now that I've seen the end of the movie, I realize this now. She didn't even really apologize. She was so focused on herself and like how she didn't even realize her perception, like she didn't even realize this was happening, that like it never really occurs to her to be like, that's my, like, I know it wasn't on purpose, but that's my bad.
She has no ability to comp on. And also, like, we do not get to, maybe it happened, and if it did, we really needed to see it. Ezra and his sister, whose name I don't remember,
Liza,
neither of them had like a serious conversation telling the mom what is wrong and what she needs to cut out. Like, yeah,
like when Ezra went over to the house and they met Amira for the first time, he took his mom to the kitchen because she was being weird, and he let it slip that he was going to propose, and his mom said, I hated this. She goes, well, finally we're going to be a family of color, and like he never explained to her he just kept telling her to stop, but like he never explained what the problem was. And like as a parent, especially like I think especially with her, it's probably very easy to just be like, oh, your kids are always embarrassed by things you do and just chalk it up to that. But, like, no one ever explained to her it's, like, a genuine issue that she needs to fix and change.
This is not her bringing up baby pictures every single time they leave the house. This is, like...
microaggressions.
And sure, maybe with the Amira in the other room, it's not the right time to have that serious of a conversation because it would probably take a while. We do not see that he did that.
It sounds like they went to her house and then he left and he was like, I never want to speak to my mother again.
Which I wouldn't either. But also, is it important to Amira? Like, we don't know what those two want. They
don't know what they want.
So many things in this movie we are just told and expected to just believe that that's what it is. We just are supposed to believe that family is important. Which, if it is, you need to show us. Like, there weren't even any photos of each other's families in the house that they bought together. And if family is that important to you, a teeny tiny way you could have shown the audience is by putting, family mementos. The house was, like, very obviously designed by two young people. Like, design-wise, there are a lot of big, bold colors. There weren't a lot of things on the wall. If family is that important, maybe you'd have...
something.
I don't know. Or
something.
A Star of David for his family, or like pictures of an anniversary dinner with his, like, there were no mementos on either side. I'm like, why not? Why is family important? We don't have the why for anything anybody does ever. The only person who we like, whose motivations we are able to understand is Akbar's, and it is because he says them out loud explicitly.
You're not what I expected from my daughter. Like, and then they have the rehearsal dinner, right? And this, I think, scene should have happened earlier in the movie because basically Akbar stands up and he's like, usually the father of the bride gives a speech at the wedding, and they say like you're giving your daughter away, which is very nerve-wracking for a father because you don't know who you're giving your daughter to. Like, it could be someone who, is racist and makes, like, does drugs, like, stuff like that. Basically, all the things that were going on at the bachelor party, which, to remind you, Ezra did none of that, right? But And then Akbar goes, but I didn't get that guy. I got Ezra. So, like, implying that Ezra doesn't do those things and Ezra's a nice guy, even though we know he doesn't like Ezra. So then after the fact, Ezra goes up to him and he's like, why'd you say all those things? And Akbar's like, I didn't do it for you, I did it for my daughter, because your friends, like, are racist and all these things, yada, yada, yada. And Ezra's finally had enough, and basically the end of his speech, which should have happened, honestly, the first time, but, like, way earlier than this, he goes, all I have done is try and love your daughter. And he's like, you're right. I will never know. Like, there's one thing you're right about. I will never know what it's like to be a black person in America, but I do know what an asshole is. And then he walks off. And at the end of the day, that's the issue is Ezra, it's like, I can understand if someone, Akbar being like, you don't understand our plight. But Ezra wasn't trying to say he did. He never was. He was trying to be a good partner to your child. And honestly, he was doing a decent job. And you were just giving him a hard time because you assumed he wouldn't be doing a good job and he wasn't what you expected. You never gave him a chance to prove that. You know, if you gave him a chance and then he's turned out to suck, that's different. But he never gave him a chance. And then Amira has to give Ezra's mom a speech because Ezra's mom comes up to her and says hello, and she's like asking her what her hairstyle is. She's like, is that like a sew-in or something? And Amira's like, no. And then Shelly's like, oh, is it a this? And Amira's like, no. And then Shelly's like, because ever since the bachelorette party, I've been Googling hairstyle. And like Eleanor, when we were watching the movie, I was like, you know how easy it is to go, what hairstyle is that? First of all, I don't really think you should be asking. But like, rather than going, is it this? No. Is it this? No. Just be like, hey, I like you. Your hair looks really nice. So what is it?
Yeah.
But Amira eventually has to go, I'm not a toy. And Shelly's like, oh, no, I wasn't. And she's like, no, you do. And I bet you every time you hang out with me, you tell all your friends. And Amira was like, I wanted you to see me as a person, but you're never going to see me as a person. You're always going to see me as your token black daughter-in-law. And that's all I'll ever be to you. And then Shelly starts crying. And Amira's like, oh, so now you're going to cry. Like, everything I just said wasn't valid. Like, you're the only person who has feelings. And then she goes, am I being aggressive? Am I making you uncomfortable? And then she leaves. And this is the only other time we see, I think, her mom, Amira's mom, because Amira's mom comes by and goes, Shelly, are you okay? And Shelly's like, yeah, because she just got told she shouldn't be crying like a big baby. And then Amira's mom goes after Amira.
It's like, I really hope that this is not the first time that somebody has been that real with Shelly. But if it is, that was not Amira's job, okay? Amira should not have had to be the one to tell her to back the hell off. That Amira is the person, I mean, I feel like victim is kind of a strong word, but, you know, Amira is the target of all of her weirdness. Literally 98% of her weirdness, because she's a little weird with his parents, too. But, like, why, if Ezra loves this girl so much and is obviously, like, watches her be upset, and he knows that what his mother is doing is wrong, why did it take this long for us to see her get called out? Because I'm sure Ezra is, you know, his mind is kind of taken advantage of, like, you know, there's a lot of other things going on, especially, like, her parents not liking him. But, like, I keep thinking, like, if somebody was being a dick to Kalina, that's you.
Yes.
And even if I was, like, going through my own sort of thing, if the person who was being a dick to you is somebody I knew well enough that I could tell them to shut up, and, like, in a similar situation to this, probably do it in a way that, because I know the person, I would try to, like, do it in a place that would work. I would do that because it seems like I have more respect and love for you, my podcast co-host, than Ezra does for his future wife.
And nothing else.
Nothing else. We just met. But, like,
and my thing is, they needed to have those conversations with the other person's parents, but also, yes, they needed to have those conversations with their own parents. And, like, it's not, like Eleanor said, it's not Amira's responsibility. Like, this is how I feel here. I get looked at a lot, and, like, it's not my responsibility, even if I'm the first person of color you've ever seen in your life. It's not my responsibility to be a good example because, like, sometimes I feel like that. Then some people are looking at me and I'm like, I don't want them to, like, think, oh, people of color are bad, because they're probably assuming that. but like it's not my responsibility to be the pinnacle of
No.
race. And like, so Amira shouldn't, like, I think those conversations need to be had because they need to hear it coming from the other person, but it should have been had with their own children first. It should have been like Ezra saying, hey mom, when you do these things, that's bad for these reasons. And Amira, maybe if it continues, or just Amira to follow up, be like, I don't really appreciate being made feel like I'm a toy or a token, and I really do want to have a relationship with you. Maybe not have to come in. I don't think she was aggressive, but not have to come in as heated as she did at the time.
That Shelley's mom thought it was a little bit aggressive, and I think she was so taken aback because this is the first time anybody has ever talked to her about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! Another thing, we are just told that Ezra and Amira love each other. We are told that Ezra thinks Amira is the light of his life, the coolest person ever. He does jack shit to show it. And I'm sorry, a rom-com, especially the rom part of it, only works if we
believe it.
There is more inherent romance in a teen drama between two platonic characters than there is no intimacy. We don't get the sense that they are comfortable with each other. We do not get the sense that they know each other. And I don't know how much of it is the writing and how much of it is the acting. I feel like they were not given a lot to work with. Maybe they didn't work with what they were given very well. But like,
maybe because Jonah Hill wrote the script, he was like, it's very obvious what's going on here.
I think there's definitely a part of that where like he knows what his character is doing because he wrote it. He knows exactly. He knows how, we just see A, and then at the very end we see D. He has, C
A to
B and C to fill it in, but we are not given the luxury of filling all those gaps in, which makes it a very discombobulated story.
And then the conclusion of this, which I don't agree with, like, I do think they needed time, but I don't agree with the final conclusion, was they're like, we need to break up because our parents suck. Not because not because dealing with our parents made us realize we're not compatible, or dealing with our parents made us realize we need to, like, step away. Nope, they're at the rehearsal dinner, like, we need to call off the wedding. And then it's 3 months, and Ezra's podcast has blown up, which, like, also, we never get any details, like, because, like, they weren't doing that well 3 months prior. But he's quit his job, and he's doing the podcast full time, and he's talking to his friend Mo, who Mo had earlier in the movie said that black and white people can never truly understand each other. And Ezra's like, I don't agree with that. So, and 3 months later, Ezra's doing the podcast, and he's like, Mo, you were right. Like, and basically what he says is, if you have something you love, you need to keep it to yourself, because he realizes that's what ruined the relationship is when they brought their parents into it.
No, it's not. It's that you didn't want to talk to your mom and tell her to shut the hell up.
Well, no, that is what ruined the relationship, but they could have fixed it by speaking to their parents. Shelley, Ezra's mom, hears this, and Akbar, Amira's dad, hears this, and they plot to bring them together because Amira's dad is with his brother in the car. And his brother's like, you really gave that boy a hard time. And he's like, no, I didn't. I just proved like he wasn't right. And then his brother's like, okay, you telling me you never did cocaine? Like, you were never a wild. You used to be named, what was his name? Woody. He's like, I know you as Woody. And so they both have these separate realizations, and they meet up and plan a surprise meetup for Amira and Ezra. And then the ending of the movie is stupid, right? But anyway, the context is Ezra thinks he's taking his mom to a shoe store to buy shoes, and we don't know what Amira got told, because when her dad shows up, he goes, Amira, whatever I told you to get you here, it was a lie. And then they're like chit-chatting, and then Akbar apologizes to Ezra, and Shelley apologizes to Amira, which I also saw people had a problem with this, because Shelley's like, I want to apologize on behalf of all Jewish. Does she say all Jewish people?
Honestly,
she might.
The end of the movie shocked me so much that she could have said about anything in the couple minutes leading up to it. She said
all. She's like, I'd like to apologize on behalf of, I don't know, one thing, and then she either says Jewish people or racist Jewish people, or and then she goes, except for the actual racist, because they're like, Aunt Mitzi, she's actually racist, so we're not apologizing on behalf of her. And then she goes, but most importantly, I want to apologize on behalf of myself. And I saw people saying how, like, she had to apologize for racism, but no one apologized for anti-Semitism. But, like,
and it's also like, I think, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. I really do not think, and Kalina said this, the fundamental issue with his parents does not stem from the fact that they are Jewish. It stems from the fact that they are white. And being Jewish and being white are very separate. Like sometimes they can be intersectional. I feel like here they are treated as the same thing, which I feel like is not really the case in the wider storyline here.
Yeah, that was because that was a complaint is, oh, all Jews are rich and white and privileged. No, but the specific Jewish people we are talking about are rich and white and privileged.
And them being rich and white and privileged is what is creating most of the conflict, because they've never met they're being weird white people about it. They're not being weird Jewish people about it.
To be fair, the only time I think them being Jewish is an issue is when they have the dinner and they get in the debate about Farrakhan.
Yes.
The imam versus rabbi thing.
Yes.
And yep.
Yeah, that's kind of it. And those are like very specific places where they are only talking about being Jewish. And there are no times where they're talking about being white, which I feel like especially with all of Shelley's interactions with Amira's family, the problem is that she is white and clueless, not that she is Jewish and they are Muslim.
Yeah, like the hair thing was a culture thing, not a religion thing.
Yeah,
it was a the hair thing.
And also, if they wanted to make it a little bit more intertwined, especially like with the wig scene, in some I don't know if it's a denomination, if it's Jewish, but in some, sections of Judaism, women cover their hair with wigs after
I was thinking
marriage.
that I was like I don't get how you're confused by this.
Yeah, like that I didn't really sound like they were Orthodox Jews who covered their hair after marriage.
No, but they would have heard of that.
Surely they are aware of that. If I'm aware of it, surely other Jewish people are aware of it. Like that could have been used as a moment to kind of bridge the gap. Mm-hmm. But the problem did not stem from her being Jewish, it stemmed from her being white. And there are different contexts.
Mm-hmm. Or like when he took him to the barbershop, he didn't take him to a Muslim barbershop. He took him to a black barbershop. When he went to play basketball, he took him to pick up basketball, and all the other guys were black. It wasn't they were all Muslim. They were all, So like, yeah, him being a Jew, so like, I don't think anti-Semitism is bad, obviously, but I don't think that was the time for Akbar to apologize for anti-Semitism because he wasn't being anti-Semitic. He was just being racist and assuming things.
And even on the other side, them being Muslim, for the most part, except for, again, the Imam thing, the Farrakhan thing, and just
when she said
both
dating a Muslim
families
guy.
Both families wanting their child to date somebody in the same religion. Mm-hmm. It's more of a race thing than a religion thing, and I think on both sides, them being like their religion didn't really play a huge part in it. And I think it kind of muddied the waters and made the point they were trying to make have too many layers, which again you can see because people are complaining about the movie being anti-Semitic, which really, except for 3 points out of the entire movie, they could have been the same exact religion on both sides, and it would have been the same.
You could have, like, aside from those few points, you could have removed religion and told the same story. And like, if you wanted to keep the same beats in the movie, you just would have had another problem. Yeah. But like, yeah. And then the end of the movie was stupid is because, so they apologize, they have a little chit chat, and then they're like, okay, come inside. And they come inside to a surprise wedding that Shelley and Akbar have set up for them. My thing is, right, if I broke up with you, even if it wasn't because I didn't love you anymore and I broke up with you for extenuating circumstances, after 3 months, I'm not ready to marry you the day I see you for the first time after 3 months. But they get married. There's a imam and a rabbi there. Their friends are like, so everyone agreed to this, and Amira and Ezra are like, yeah, let's get married. No,
they got married.
They hadn't spoken to each other they had a rehearsal dinner, broke up, did not see or speak to each other for 3 months. The first day they do that, and not even the first day, about 20 minutes at most after they spoke to each other for the first time in 3 months, they got married.
Legally wed.
If you loved each other that much, I feel like one of you would have called each other before right now. And we get a montage scene proving they didn't do that, because we see her like finding his shoes under the bed. Like, clearly she's got his stuff still.
Married before the Jewish and the Muslim God and all of their families after not speaking to each other for 3 months. Also, probably not speaking to each other ever because I don't think they did.
I would need, not that I don't love you. I've known Eleanor for a while. I'd need 3 months to prepare to marry her now.
Yeah. And just we didn't get a sense of if kind of the wedding aspect of being married was important to either of them. I cannot imagine any, and yes, maybe this is sexist, I'm gonna say it, any woman who would just be okay with marrying the love of their life in whatever clothes they happen to be wearing that day. I would not wear the same thing going shopping with my parents, which is probably what she thought she was doing, as I would to any wedding, let alone my own.
I mean, yeah, she looked nice, but he was wearing, they weren't wearing wedding clothes. And I think it fit them, but also we don't know, because we don't know anything about them. We don't know what they wanted for a wedding. And this movie was just long. But if you're gonna pick between watching this and Don't Look Up, I would go with this one because I laughed. I think one time. It had good music.
Stupid.
Anyway, pick a lane is, I think, the lesson for today.
Yeah.
You can't make a rom-com commentary. You just pick two and run with them, and you can have elements of the other, but they can't be all three or four at once.
If your movie is going to have a moral, I genuinely think the moral of this story should have been that you need to tell your parents to knock it off. But they tried to do a commentary about interpersonal relationships and also an overarching thing of race relations and also a little bit religious relations, and they were trying to do so many things that they said nothing.
And I think that's why people had a problem, because they conflated the issues because they didn't address them well enough, so they all kind of became jumbled into the same issue even though they weren't.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been here for a little while. Also, if you're gonna have Eddie Murphy in his movie, not the typecast, but he is skilled at what he does. Let him do more than that. Yeah, because the moments where it was supposed to be funny, it wasn't necessarily him being funny. It was situational, and he's funny. He can be funny and still tell you a serious story. Anyway, you people.
Bad movie.
That's what I'm gonna say when I see the writers of this movie. You people, don't do that. But if you have anything else you'd like us to watch, send it in. We will probably do it because we kind of talk about movies. Yep. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Don't Quote Us on That, and at Twitter at Don't Quote Us 27. I have been Kalina.
I have been Eleanor.
We have been in the same room for the first time ever, and hopefully not for the last time.
Maybe.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't quote me on that. One day we'll have an outro, but it's not today.